Hey guys, this is Anthony Morganti from OnlinePhotographyTraining.com. Welcome to my video series, Mastering the Nik Collection. Several years ago, the Nik Collection of plugins was the #1 set of plugins for Photoshop and Lightroom. Cashing in on their success, they sold off to Google. Google marketed the suite for a couple years with a few updates. Then they announced that they would not be updating the software any longer, and they made it free to download. Around that time, I did a set of training videos on the software that proved to be very popular. Recently, the company DxO purchased the rights to the Nik Collection and announced that they would be developing and updating it. Although it's no longer free, it is nice to have a caretaker for this software because it is very good. With all the good things happening with Nik, I decided to update my training videos on the product. This new series will be more in-depth and thorough than the previous series. Please be aware that I have no affiliation with the company. I'm not being paid by them to do these videos, and if you purchase the software, I will not be making a commission on the sale. With that said, if you could do me a favor, if you like these videos, please click the thumbs up button and share them. Finally, if you can make a donation, I would greatly appreciate it. That info is in the description below this video, along with a link to my Code of Ethics statement. Let's get started. In this video, we're going to continue our discussion of Silver Efex Pro 2 by Nik Software. Now, some of the information I'm going to give you in this video, I already covered in the Color Efex Pro 4 videos, but often people don't watch my videos from the first one to the last one. They're going to jump around, and I think that's really true for Nik Software. Someone might be just interested in Silver Efex Pro 2, and they're not going to bother to watch any of those Color Efex Pro 4 videos. So I'm going to have to repeat myself. So those of you that do watch all the videos, I apologize that you're going to hear some information twice, but there is some information I'll be offering in this video that is unique to Silver Efex Pro 2. Now, as you can see, we're in Lightroom. We're going to send this image over from Lightroom into the plugin Silver Efex Pro 2, and there are 3 different ways you could do that in Lightroom. You could just go down to the thumbnail that's in the film strip, right-click on it, and go up to Edit In, then send it to any plugin you'd like. In this case, of course, it would be Silver Efex Pro 2. You could, if you don't want to do that, right-click on the image itself, go down to Edit In, and then down to the plugin of choice. And another way you could do it is you could go up to the top photo menu, then down to Edit In, and in this case, of course, we're sending it to Silver Efex Pro 2. And when you do that, this dialog box pops up. Now, Nik Software does not work directly on a RAW file, so it's going to have to convert this Nikon RAW file into something it can work with. And you have a choice. Right here it says File Format. And you could see it defaults to TIFF, and that's usually what I leave it at. You could also work on a PSD file or a JPEG file. I just usually leave it at TIFF. The color space, there's a number to choose from. Most of you will see sRGB, Adobe RGB, and ProPhoto RGB. Some of you, depending on the computer you're using, will see Display P3 as well. These are like boxes of crayons. The sRGB has the least amount of crayons in it, whereas the ProPhoto RGB has the most crayons on it. And it kind of goes in order. The ProPhoto RGB has the most colors. Adobe RGB is next. Display P3 in this case is third. And then the least is sRGB. I usually like to use the one that offers the most colors, ProPhoto RGB. Now, doesn't matter as much now because we're sending the image into a plugin that's going to create a black and white image, but at least you know that. So we're going to leave it at ProPhoto RGB. Also, the bit depth, I leave it at 16 bits per component. The other alternative choice is 8 bits per component. Just leave it at 16. Resolution, it will default to 240. That's the minimum resolution you should use when you're using any image in any plugin. Usually we like to up that a little more, usually to 300. If you're using an Epson printer, I would suggest you put this to 360. Epson Printer Rep told me that they use 360. So either 300 or 360 I recommend. Compression, none. It's just going to make the file smaller if you do compress it. I'm not going to do it. And I'm going to click edit. Now before I do that, you can see that there's a couple choices up here I didn't talk about, edit a copy or edit original. Because it's a raw file, those are grayed out. If you're going to send a non-raw file, those will be active, and you could either send an edit, you could either send over a copy of the image that you want to edit. So if you have, let's say, a JPEG or a TIFF, you could send a copy instead of the original image by clicking this box, or if you really want to send the original image, you could click this box. But again, because it's a raw file, those are grayed out. So we're going to click edit. Now Lightroom's going to create this TIFF file with those attributes I specified. Once it does, it will show up down here in the bottom area in the film strip. You can see up here it's got a status bar, and there it goes, it did it, and then it will automatically open up in Silver Efex Pro 2. And when it does, I'm going to maximize this. As I've mentioned, let me go back to all our presets. As I mentioned in the previous video, it automatically will apply this first, what they call natural preset, to the image. So it's really just kind of a balanced monochrome look. And then we do our processing from this point forward. Now I covered in our last video global adjustments, color filter, film types, finishing adjustments in that video. And I will actually talk about those a little bit more in our next video. But in this video, I want to concentrate on this section right here, selective adjustments. And really all that is control points. This is often called local adjustments, where global adjustments will adjust everything, every pixel in the image. Selective or local adjustments will adjust just the pixels you want adjusted. And as those of you that watch Color Efex Pro 4 saw, with control points, you could select a very specific area or part of your image that you want adjusted. So it's very powerful control points. They take a little bit of getting used to though. Now, to add a control point to this image, very easy. Just click right here where it says control points. Just click that little donut and your cursor turns into this bullseye. Take that bullseye and just place it over something that you want adjusted. So let's say I want these trees adjusted over here on the left-hand side. So I will click it on the trees. So I'm on the trees, and you can see that when I click with the left mouse button and hold down, we have that circle. That's the area of influence. That's the area that the adjustments will affect. Anything outside of that circle, the adjustments won't touch. Now, what does it know, or how does it know what to adjust? Right where this little button is, right where you clicked, it's going to look at the pixels under that. And what it's actually looking for is the texture and tone of those pixels. Now, even though we're in Silver Efex Pro 4, or Silver Efex Pro 2, I'm sorry, it also looks at the color. Yeah, now it's a black and white image, but it knows the color that was represented there. So what it's doing, it's looking for texture, tone, and color. And then whatever is within that circle that has similar texture, tone, and color will get affected by the adjustment. Now you could see that there's 3 adjustments right there. The first one is brightness. As I move that up, you can see that area is getting brighter. Now I could make the area larger or smaller with this circle of influence by clicking this top slider and moving it. So I could keep it down to just these trees right there. I could still always move this adjustment around if I want to, reposition it. So this is brightness. So you're affecting brightness just in this area, and you can see it's not affecting any other area of the image. Below that is contrast. So we could turn that, and it's just going to affect contrast in that area. Now I don't really care what it looks like right now. I just want to show you what it does. The next one is structure. And structure is kind of like clarity, those of you familiar with Lightroom. So we could add some structure to the area of influence by moving it to the right, take structure away by moving it to the left, which will give it more of a softer feel. Now those are the 3 kind of default adjustments when you apply a control point. But right below here, you'll see there's a little triangle. And if you click on that little triangle, you'll get 4 more adjustments. AW is amplify whites. And if you move that to the right, we're going to make whatever is considered a white or a highlight in that area brighter. Below that is amplify blacks. And if I take that slider and move that to the right, it's going to make whatever is a shadow or what it considers black even darker. Move it to the left, it'll make it lighter. There's not much happening with that slider in this instance. Below that is fine structure, and we talked about that in our last video. That's going to more affect smaller elements in the image. It's not quite as heavy-handed as the actual structure slider, and you could see it doesn't really seem to be doing anything right here. And this last one is selective colorization. By default, that's going to be all the way down. If I move that to the right, we'll start to add color. And you can see that the color is just added to our area of influence where our circle is. And the circle, within that circle, it's again only going to look at that area under this little button. And it's going to again look for texture, tone, and color. And it's going to try to only affect those pixels that are similar in texture, tone, and color. So for demonstration purposes, let's just leave that color on this right now. I don't like selective color generally speaking, but let's leave it there because I want to show you now we want to add another control point. Now, you can simply go up here and click this little button and add a control point. Or if you'd like to add a control point with the same settings as this one, just hold the Alt or Option key in. It's Alt if you have a PC, Option if you have a Mac. Click on this little button and then drag off another control point. So you can see we have a second one, and we'll move it over here. So we have these 2 control points now, and I'll readjust this. And you can see that one is on the left, one is on the right. Now, let's just go up here and click this right here and add another one right here. All right, so we added another one here. And we're going to add selective color to that too. And we're going to bring that area of influence down. Oops, sorry. Now, what I'd like to show you is you could group all these control points together. If you have a number of control points in your image and you want them all adjusted identically to one another, the easiest way to do that is to group them together. Now to do that, go up here on the right hand panel and you can see we have our 3 control points listed. Control point 1 is the one on the far right, control point 2's or on the far left, I'm sorry. Control point 2 is the far right, and control point 3 is in the lower middle. So we're going to select them all. So just click on one, and you could select them individually by holding on the Shift key and then clicking on them. Or you could just click on the first one, hold the Command or Control key in, and click on the last one and get them all selected. Once you do, this button right here becomes active, and that's click to group those selected control points. And when I do that, you'll see that they're grouped together now, but these 2 control points aren't there. This one's active. Now if I take this one and I take selective colorization down, you could see it's affecting all the control points. So this is like the master control point for the group. Very easy to do. So that, grouping, very handy to do. If you want to ungroup something, what you could do is just click this button right here and you'll ungroup it. And then you could come back in and readjust these individually if you'd like to. Now, if you'd like to see the area of influence of the control points, and we covered this in the last video, you could see, look at the individual control points by clicking on this box that's at the far right. So if I want to see the area influence of control point 1, click on this box. When you do, you'll notice your image turns negative. Whatever is white is where that control point is affecting. Whatever is black, it's not affecting that area at all. Whatever it's gray, it's affecting it a little bit. The darker the gray, the less it's being affected. Now, if you'd like to see each subsequent control point, you could click on all those boxes. Click on the box again to turn that off. If you'd like to see that negative view over all the control points, instead of clicking them individually, you could go up here to this little box here and just click once, and you'll get that there. So you can see we've got a lot of area of influence with these 3 control points. So control points are a little tricky at first because you'll notice if I take one and I move it, you see how much it changes? Because again, it's looking for tone, texture, and color. So just moving it slightly, it seems to be affecting different parts of those trees. And again, see? And now when I move it down, you can see now it really does, and I probably spoke in error earlier. I can't really remember what I said, but I think I said it will confine itself to the inside of the circle. Not really. It kind of leaks out from the circle, but it's feathered. So you can see it's affecting down here, and it's affecting the sky up here where you would think it shouldn't. So it's kind of feathered out, and that's more accurate. But you can see how I move it around that it's looking at specific tone, texture, and color. So that using this negative view will help you better maybe place the control point over something you want affected and hopefully not affect the other areas. And then you could, of course, adjust the size of the control point too to help it not affect those areas you don't want affected. When you're ready to turn this negative view off, just come back up here to this little square and click on that again. And then you'll turn that off. So you can see we have this horrific looking image because of this selective color. Now, if I want to delete a control point, I could just click on it, and there's a little trash can right here, and I could click that to delete it. Activate another control point, and you can see whenever you hover over anything, you'll get a little help like flash up. So you could see click to duplicate a control point. So I could duplicate this control point instead of holding the Alt key in, which is it's this control point on the far right. I could just click right here and it will duplicate it, and it puts it right next to it, so you could grab it and move it wherever you want it moved, like that. Now if you want to delete it, you could then again hit the garbage can. Let's just delete all those. So if I was really going to process this image, as I mentioned in the previous videos, typically what I like to do with any Nik software is I look at the presets first and see if there's something in the presets that gets me close to what I like. Just looking at it real quick, I like kind of this high structure harsh. And as a matter of fact, I kind of like that. I don't think there's not a lot I need to do. I may go to finishing adjustments, and I would probably go to the vignette here, and I would add a darker vignette, just like that. That's all I'll add to that. So I kind of like that right there. And when I'm done with the image, just click Save. When you click Save, it will actually save this TIFF file. Remember, we created that TIFF file in Lightroom, and it will reopen in Lightroom with these adjustments. It's just going to take a moment. And there it is. So here's the original image. That's the original Nikon RAW file that we used. And there is our processed image in Nik Silver Efex Pro 2. Now in our next video, we're going to use Nik Silver Efex Pro 2 as a Photoshop plugin. But the neat thing about this next video, there's some attributes built into Silver Efex Pro 2 that help you use the zone system. Those of you that are familiar with Ansel Adams and his photography know that he and another photographer, I think Weston, I think it was, came up with the zone system. And the zone system is really the shades of gray that are in your image and how you could process an image to balance out the image properly so it looks balanced as far as the shades of gray going across the image are. And as I mentioned, there's a feature built into Silver Efex Pro 2 to help you process an image with the zone system. So we'll talk about that in our next video. Thank you everyone that watches my videos. I truly do appreciate it. I'll talk to you guys soon.